Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Telescope Podcast. Thank you for listening.
What's up, everybody? Everyone in this place, if you could do a handstand, I want to see your feet up in the air right now. Wave them around, that's right. Woo!
Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Telescope Podcast, the show where we look at geek culture through the spyglass of faith. My name is Matthew Seipel Anderson. It's great to have you here. Well, this episode, I'm talking about Star Wars. The Last Jedi hits theaters December 15th, and I am super pumped, and I'm sure you are too. If you're listening to this podcast, you can't ignore the juggernaut that is Star Wars. Are you going opening night? Are you going to cosplay? I've been thinking about that because I know a lot of people cosplay Star Wars stuff. You know, if you watch videos of the conventions. I mean, not that I ever have watched videos of Star Wars convention, but, you know, I'm sure some people have. Anyway, are you going to cosplay? What are you going to dress up as? I would love to hear. I would love to see a picture of it. I have cosplayed one time, I will admit. I dressed up as an elf for The Hobbit. It was like a bucket list thing, you know. I had seen people at these sci-fi conventions and, you know, Comic-Con and stuff cosplaying, and it made me laugh, but I thought, you know, it'd be fun just like one time to be that guy, you know, who shows up fully looking like, you know, well, not Jar Jar Binks. I don't know why that came to my mind. Something much cooler than Jar Jar Binks, like coming, you know, in a full-on Vader costume or coming, you know, dressed like Darth Maul or something. It'd be super awesome. I will say this. I had this thought while I was doing my show prep, and I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but if you find folks who are listening to this show can bring this episode past the 100 view mark, I will cosplay at The Last Jedi. I'm not going to let you tell me what I'll cosplay as. You can give suggestions, but I will go out and I'll buy one of those Chewbacca onesies at Walmart or something, and I'll wear it to The Last Jedi. And my wife may not go with me, which will be unfortunate. But yeah, I'll throw that out there because I love you guys. I'm willing to take one for the team. And I just want the podcast to have over 100 views. That'd be awesome. Well, anyway, so here we are talking about The Last Jedi. So I came up with some predictions for this movie. Now, warning, before we go any further, if I am right, these will be spoilers, okay? So spoiler alert, I'm going to make some predictions. These predictions are based on things I've seen, things I've read. Reading Star Wars news is kind of my guilty pleasure. Every day, I just about look at StarWarsNewsNet.com. It's my favorite Star Wars news website. It's really the only one I look at nowadays. You know, I can just pop on there, read the newest news, and they I don't know, they must have some inside connections because they have really good coverage of all things Star Wars. So, okay, here we go. Now, hit pause for a second. Before I give these predictions, I should say that giving predictions is a little precarious. It's a little risky. So I'm mitigating my risk by breaking my predictions down into dark side and light side predictions. So I thought that was appropriate for Star Wars. So here we go. My dark side prediction number 1. Kylo Ren will not come back to the light. I've seen some pictures online of Kylo Ren, you know, dressed in brown with a blue lightsaber, and they're saying, oh, they're going to redeem him in this next movie. No. He has gone to the dark side. Okay. I have more thoughts on that, but just hold on. Number 2, Luke is weakened and emotionally damaged. Now, that's not a huge I don't know. You don't have to be a prophet to figure that out. You can just see in the trailers they're showing that he's kind of emotionally raw and he's just not in a good place. But yeah, I think he's more than just down. I think he's kind of damaged. He even says at one point that he's scared by Rey's power. He said, I wasn't, scared enough when I was training Kylo Ren. I'm kind of putting this in my own words, but you know what I'm saying. If you've seen the trailers, you know the scene I'm referring to. He says, I've only seen this raw power once before, and it didn't scare me enough, but it does now. And if you'll recall from the original movies, Yoda used to teach that fear was a path to the dark side. So something is happening inside Luke where he's willing to freely admit that this is freaking him out, and he is scared. And so he's not the Zen master that we saw in Yoda. Luke is in a different place. So there, that's my prediction. Number 3, the character of Snoke. I'm going to go ahead and just predict that Snoke is very old and that his origin story will play into another movie or a set of movies. He's such a intriguing, secretive, and new character. I mean, most movies have like a big bad, so in that sense, he's not really new. The secret big bad that works behind the scenes. I guess that's actually kind of I don't know what the right word is, archetypical type of character. But anyway, we don't know much about him. He was kept very secret. We didn't even see him in the last film. So I'm just going to throw that out as a prediction. He's very old, and his origin story will play into another movie or a set of movies. And by the way, the writer/director of The Last Jedi, I believe his name's Rian Johnson, has been tapped by Disney to write and direct a new trilogy that's going to supposedly take place in a different time period and with all fresh characters. It's not going to be a part of the Skywalker saga. So that's kind of interesting. Now, take that with a grain of salt. Everything is subject to change, especially stuff like that where it's a long way out, but that's what's being reported. So, all right, number 4. Someone will lose a limb. Now, come on. This is a Star Wars tradition. Limbs being lost, right? You see Anakin losing limbs and General Grievous losing like 6 limbs. Count Dooku lost his arms before he met his fate. And so I'm just going to say, and Luke lost a limb in The Empire Strikes Back. So I'm going to say in this film, somebody is going to lose a limb. In The Force Awakens, we didn't get a limb loss, but we did, lose a legacy character, and we did get Kylo Ren being pretty beat up. Anyway, that feeds right into number 5. My number 5 dark side prediction is a legacy character will die. But who? I don't know. I think the most logical choice would be Princess Leia. And if I really was pressed on my thoughts, I would say that they already planned to kill off Princess Leia before Carrie Fisher died. And that when Carrie Fisher died, they started saying, oh no, this is a tragedy for the next installment of the franchise because now we have to figure out what to do with the story and blah, blah, blah. I personally have always thought that was just a ruse, just a red herring. And I think Leia was always intended to go in this film. They're not going to kill Luke Skywalker. They may injure Luke Skywalker. They may capture Luke Skywalker. But if he goes, it's not going to be till the final chapter, I don't think. But who else could go? Maybe they won't kill off Princess Leia quite yet. Maybe the Millennium Falcon. That's basically the Falcon is a character in Star Wars as much as anybody else. Maybe the Falcon and Chewie would go down in a blaze of glory. That would be an interesting choice, Chewie lost Han in the last one. He's got nothing to lose now, and maybe sacrifices himself to save Rey. That could be a scenario that I could see. We'll see how it plays out. I'm not really sure. All right, moving on to my light side predictions. Now, previously, I said Kylo Ren is not going to go back to the light side. However, and I'm making a soft prediction here, that Kylo Ren may go rogue, and he kind of might become like an anti-hero. that's a direction I could see happening. I could see him having a lot of angst and grief over his choice to kill his father, and him being angry at Snoke, but still angry at Luke Skywalker, and just kind of going off in his own direction and just playing wreaking all kinds of havoc in the movie. So, I don't know. I don't think I'd put money on that. If I had to guess, I would say, being that he killed Han Solo and he passed that test that Emperor Snoke put out. Emperor Snoke kind of treated it like, yeah, you're a very promising pupil, but I don't know if you really have it in you to do this, to take this step to kill your own father. And he did it. So, to me, that means he's taken a step towards fulfilling his plan of going dark, kind of being the next Darth Vader. That's what I'm trying to say. All right, number 2, in my light side predictions. Now, this one, okay, everybody has been predicting who Rey's parents are. So I just thought, well, I'll throw out my own prediction. I really don't have a strong opinion about who Rey's parents are. But just for fun, I'm coming up with my own prediction. I'm going to predict that Rey's parents don't matter. But what does matter is her birthday. That she's born on the same day as Kylo Ren, and that it was kind of the quote-unquote will of the Force for her to be born because the Force wants to be in balance. So Kylo Ren is born with this strong destiny in the Skywalker lineage, and so this female is born on the same day and ends up being kind of the balance to him, and maybe her parents don't even matter. It's the Force that matters. All right, there we go. Number 3, this movie will be kind of a draw like The Force Awakens. What do I mean by that? If you think about it, in The Force Awakens, the good guys destroy Starkiller Base, so it seems like a big victory. But you can't forget that Starkiller Base had just destroyed a whole bunch of planets that were that made up the New Republic, and they supported the Resistance. So really, that movie was kind of a draw. You had Rey defeating Kylo Ren, but Kylo Ren killed Han Solo, and the only reason that Kylo Ren really lost is because he got too cocky and he was injured. So it just was kind of a draw, and the movie ends with the Earth splitting apart and Rey and Kylo Ren being pulled in opposite directions, very symbolic. And so it was kind of a draw. So I think that a similar thing is going to happen. I think that these two forces are going to collide again. There's going to be winners and losers. But in the end, it's just going to result in the stakes being higher for a final showdown in the final movie. I don't think it's going to be like in the original trilogy where in the first film it was like a clear win for the rebellion, and in the second film it was like the rebellion gets their tail handed to them and they're running off into hiding again, and then Return of the Jedi, they win. I think this is going to be moving closer to a final climactic showdown to see who comes out on top. So the movie will be kind of a draw. All right, number 4, Luke will heal and stand tall. Don't think I need to say much more. I think that seeing Rey will inspire him to have faith again in himself and in his cause and in the light side of the Force. And I think Luke will heal and stand tall. Okay, number 5. The Jedi Order may not return, but something like it will be the end result. If not this film, it'll be the end result of the whole trilogy. I guess you don't have to be too much of a prophet to say that either, but it's a prediction. Okay, and I have a bonus prediction. Bonus prediction is this. In 10 or 20 years, there's going to be a Harry Potter-style film called Rey's Jedi Academy, where Rey is the old master, kind of the head schoolmaster over this academy of young Padawans who rediscover the light side and the dark side, and there's kind of all these adventures spring forth again. So there we go. There's my final prediction. I would love to hear your predictions. Go ahead and find the podcast page on Facebook. That's the Telescope Podcast on Facebook. You can also go to mysaviorsanthem.com and click on the podcast, and you can leave your comments there. Also, email me at mysaviorsanthem@gmail.com. I'd love to hear your predictions. If you send them to me, there's a good chance that I will read them, respond to them, put them on the podcast. So anyway, this is the show that I like to talk about geek culture through the spyglass of faith. So I always have to throw in something about faith. And in Star Wars, the thing that I think always inspires people like me, Christians, is just the dichotomy between good and evil, how evil and selfishness has a withering, corrupting effect. You know, in traditional Star Wars lore, the Sith did not believe in an afterlife. They focused on the moment, on the here and now, on clutching power, on clutching, control. And the Jedi were always about letting go. Eventually they discovered immortality, self-sacrifice. So these are themes that really run true throughout Christianity. Jesus said, if you want to find your life, you must lose it, things like that. Jesus laid down his life so we could have life. So these themes are real strong in Christianity. Now, I think George Lucas, his original conceptualization for Star Wars was more inspired by Buddhism, if I remember what I have heard and read correctly. Because in Buddhism, it's more about, letting go and letting go of emotion. Now, here's what I think would be cool, is if this new trilogy, if Luke Skywalker reformulates his idea of what it means to be a light side person and begins to say, let's incorporate emotion, because bottling up emotion is a negative thing. And maybe, looking at the previews where he is saying, I wasn't afraid enough before of this power, and I am now. Maybe he is rethinking some of the stuff about being emotionless and just letting everything go. And that would definitely jive more with a Christian worldview, because, the scriptures are full of very emotional statements. You have people like David, who would weep openly. He wrote passionate poetry and psalms and songs. He was a warrior, but he was also a very devout man. The same thing even in the life of Jesus Christ. You see Jesus weeping over Jerusalem, showing compassion for the multitudes, saying, bring the children unto me. He loved the children. All these emotions that he displayed. He went into the temple and he was angry. He had a holy anger, and he drove out all those people who were selling there, and he said, this is going to be a house of prayer. But yet, he was without sin. The Bible says, be angry and sin not, right? So in our scriptures, we get this picture of emotion and passion combined with self-control and, letting go of selfish desires, selfish ambition, laying those things down for the greater good of eternal things and all that. So it would be interesting to see if Star Wars would go more in that direction. That would really make me happy. It pump me up. So anyway, thanks so much for listening. I think I'm going to stop while I'm ahead and sign off. And I would love to hear your thoughts about The Last Jedi. Let me know if you're going to cosplay. Let me know your theories, and I'll get them on the show. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
What's up, everybody? Everyone in this place, if you could do a handstand, I want to see your feet up in the air right now. Wave them around, that's right. Woo!
Thank you for listening.